How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I apologize in advance. Today is actually a pretty windy day today out here in Southeast Texas. Anyway, today's video is going to kind of be about a guide to building your S550 Mustang GT. I've owned this car for almost 2 years now, and I've done just about anything you can do. Well, not anything, but I've done just your basic full bolt-on E85 setup, MT82, BMR suspension, all the polyurethane bushings, everything. Just your run-of-the-mill Gen 2 Coyote, really. So again, this is my 2017 Ford Mustang GT. This car is fully optioned. The only option this car doesn't have is the performance package, which I didn't want anyway because it comes with 373 gears, and I really wanted the 331s in that MT82. Again, this is a full bolt-on E85. Can't really see them, but catless long tubes. Pretty much every bolt-on you can do to a Coyote Gen 3 manifold, ported out. Probably going to be doing a Holly high ram or a ported CJ soon as my next step. But today's video is going to be a guide on how, after 2 years of me owning this car, how should you modify yours differently? What steps should you take? Suspension first or engine performance first. Basically just a guide on how, personally, this is my opinion, how I think you should modify the car, the steps that you should go when doing one of these. Now, first things first on an S550, this is mainly towards my MT82 guys. If I were to restart on a clean slate with a stock S550 Mustang GT, first things first, clutch. Get that out of the way. Go ahead, do a clutch. It should be clutch, and an aftermarket shifter is, I haven't done an aftermarket shifter yet, but clutch and shifter is the first things you should do. Your automatic guys, you don't really have to worry about that. The first week in owning this car, I blew it was stock clutch, and the first week I had the car. And to give you an idea, I bought this car to race it. I bought this car to beat the shit out of it and to have as much fun as possible with this car. I didn't buy this car to preserve it or save it. And, I bought this car to race. That's what this car does for me. In the first week, I was getting to know the car, getting a feel for the car. I was doing digs out on the back road and popped the first clutch. Put in, I bought the car with 80,000 miles, so I thought, I might as well, I'll just put another stock clutch in it, whatever, it'll be fine. Well, I ended up doing a tune E85, and that was the first things that I did. Well, not even a month later, I followed the proper break-in at a dig meet, doing digs. The car had a tune and E85 at this point, no other modifications. And there went the second clutch. Second stock clutch. I still have it in my shop. It is literally in pieces. So, in my opinion, the first thing you should do to these cars, everybody gives the MT82 a lot of shit, but in my experience, the MT82 has never given me any problems, and related to gear lockout is all related to the clutch and the fluid that you're using. So first thing I did, after I pulled the transmission out a second time, and I put in an Exity Mach 500 clutch, and about almost 2 years later, and about 30,000 miles, and she is magnificent. I mean, numerous dig meets, full bolt-on setup, roll racing every weekend. I mean, beating the shit out of this car, and the Exity Mach 500, amazing clutch. I love the grab point. It grabs right at the very bottom. It's an amazing clutch. It's super predictable. Once you get to know it, it's a little tricky at first because on a stock clutch, the grab point is at the very tip top, and at this one, it is, as soon as you start to let the clutch out, it's grabbing. Now, the second thing, after you do a clutch and a shifter, and this kind of depends on what you got to ask yourself, what is your end goal? Where do you want to go with this car? What is your purpose for the car? Are you track racing? Are you taking it on a track? Are you drag racing? Are you going to dig meets, roll racing? For me, I'm doing a little bit of all of that. I want an all-in-one kind of combo. That's another reason why I don't have a drag pack on this car right now, is because I like the all-around handleability, corners, straight line, doesn't matter. The S550 chassis can do it all. I mean, dig meat's wonderful as long as you get the suspension set up right. Straight line, round back roads, curvy roads, amazing. That's how I wanted my car to not be a one-trick pony, but to be able to do everything. Well balanced, I guess you could say. So the second thing I think you should do, in my opinion, before you do any performance modifications, before you do anything else, get the suspension set up. This is a Gen 2 car. I don't know if the Gen 3 IRS is any different, but definitely replace the stock rubber bushings and the stock hollow vertical links in the rear end. I went with BMR, all polyurethane bushings. You know, every single bushing in this rear end has been torn out and replaced with polyurethane bushings. BMR solid steel vertical links. Maybe I'll put a picture on the screen of that. Now that you've got the clutch situated, and now that you've got the rear end in this car situated, because wheel hop is a serious issue on this chassis. I mean, forget about first gear digs, forget about all that. Your wheel hop is going to be a real issue. Third, now that you've got your clutch situated, now that you've got your rear end situated, and again, this is not the order that I took. I went the complete opposite. I went full bolt-on on the engine before I did any suspension, before I did anything. Now, the first thing I did do was a clutch. But after I did my clutch, I went ported manifold, 90mm throttle body, intake, long tubes. You know, I did E85, I did all the bolt-ons before I did suspension. And honestly, I wish I would have went suspension before I did that, because, you know, full bolt-on on a Gen 2, I'm probably making 460, 470 wheel, probably around there. And like I said, I go to dig meets and stuff like that, and the rear end, even stock, it can't handle the power this car is going to be putting to the ground. So now that you've got your suspension set up, I also do have Ford Performance track struts, springs, and shocks, all four corners, 1-inch lowering springs. So it sits pretty right now. I'm not too much of a fan of the rims and the wheel tire setup I have on it right now. I really want to go to a 19 versus I have an 18 right now, staggered setup. But I only paid $450 for these rims and tires, so I really can't complain. And they do the job just fine. Well, first thing I did was a cold air intake, tune, and E85. If I could go back and restart, the first thing that I would have done, manifold, injectors, E85 tune. The manifold alone, and this is to the Gen 2 guys, that manifold is your biggest restrictor on this whole car. The stock manifolds, I mean, the power starts to drop off around 6,500, and they're done after that. So you can do all you want, you can do headers, you can do anything you want, but that manifold is going to be your biggest restrictor. Now, power to dollar ratio, the first mod I think you should do, skip, don't even touch the cold air intake, honestly. It really is not going to make that much of a difference. Skip headers, go straight to the manifold. I went with a ported Gen 3 manifold, ported by Auto Mafia, and I did injectors at the same time I did that. And again, if you're going to be running E85, you're going to have to do injectors if you do an aftermarket intake manifold. First mod, engine-wise, intake manifold. You can go Cobra Jet, you can go Holley High Ram, GT350. I'd stay away from Boss. Just seeing dyno numbers, they're really not that much better than the stock manifolds. Well, they do carry higher RPM, but if you're going to be spending the money, a ported Gen 3 will outdo a Boss manifold any day of the week. So there's many different options out there when it comes to the intake manifold. Now, this is probably your most cost-effective way. You can still use your stock throttle body. I don't have my stock throttle body. I have a 90mm CNL on here. But, I mean, you can go a lot of different routes. Cobra Jet and Holley High Ram is kind of your best bet. Those two. I haven't seen dyno numbers to prove which one is better, which one isn't better. I guess it comes down to tuner. You know, I haven't seen evidence to see which one is really the king when it comes to the manifold game. You're on engine modifications. You know, I don't plan going boosted. So if you plan on going boosted, a Boss manifold would probably suit you better for the boosted guys, or a CJ, or things like that. But again, this one's going to be for my NA guys, my NA Coyote guys. This is my opinion on the steps you should take. First things first, manifold, injectors. Get that done out of the way, then do your long tubes and your intake and everything else. Now for my Gen 3 guys, engine wise, catless long tubes, the 85, and you're right around 480, 500 already. So again, just to recap on everything, if I were to restart tomorrow with a fresh car, on the steps I would take, first things first, I would do clutch, shifter. Second, rear suspension, all the polyurethane bushings, BMR vertical links, lowering springs, everything, track strut, shocks, everything like that. And then I would go to the rest of the car. If that's just me personally. If I was to restart tomorrow and do it all over again, I would completely skip doing any engine modifications. I'd save that for last personally. Now that's just my opinion. Thank y'all for watching. Thank y'all for tuning in, and peace out.